All right. Hey guys. I'm tired today, so I have to give you that caveat. I am really, really tired. So I'm probably going to sound like crap. But uh today I am going to practice transparent flowers. I took a class last week on how to make them, and this is what I did in class. So Um, this was done with Imperial Purple from Daniel Smith. And I asked for some suggestions on different colors for me to practice with, and I got a few options. So turquoise, pink, orange. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to practice. I printed out a couple of photos as like a reference and inspiration. So this one I'm going to do the turquoise in, or I'm going to attempt to do the turquoise in. We'll see how it works. I'll have to, use some imagination as well, because I just don't want one big flower. And then this tiny, tiny little one here, I was going to use for the tulips. So I liked how you could see all of the different petals of the flower and how they were overlapping and fairly transparent from the sun. So I'm going to do some variation of that. And those are the two that we're going to work on today. Or maybe three. I might do something just in this like kind of style as well, where it's not a specific flower. And just see where it can go. And what I'm going to do is, because I don't want drying time on stream, because that's not fun for you or me. Really not fun for me, because then I have to say stuff. And I don't exactly know what to say when there's nothing to talk about. So, what I'm going to do is work on them all simultaneously. I'm going to cut these down so that I just have panels. And I'm just going to guesstimate, because I don't actually know what the size of this paper is off the top of my head. Or if it's not going to fit really in there, but that's about half-ish. Just make some panels so that we can work on all three of them at the same time. So no waiting, no drying. Not too bad at half. Okay. So let's start, I think, with the tulips first. And I'm just going to put this up here, so, oops, you need to see my arm for a minute. So, let me see. I have way too many things open on my phone at the moment. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. All right. So I'm going to keep this over here just for kind of inspiration. And I don't think I'm going to be able to grab the highlights and shadows, and I actually don't think I want to, but I do kind of want to stay with this shape. I mean, tulips are pretty recognizable. So I want to do this in an orangey color, maybe more of a peachy color. I'm just going to play around, and these are going to be fairly smallish. So my brush today will, I'm just gonna stick with my favorite. Yeah. Just need to soften it up. This is a new brush. So I have to get the stuff that they put on the bristles to keep them stiff off. Yeah. So, okay, and I have a piece of paper here so that I can test out the color and see how deep it's going. I have my palette here. And I'm just going to start mixing up colors. But before I do that, I'm going to wet the paint. My son has been in my office and now I can't find anything. So maybe I'm not going to wet the paint the way... Oh, here it is. Haha. Just going to put some water in some of the colors that I want. I'm going to be playing with New Gamboge and Aussie Red Gold. These are Daniel Smith watercolors. And then I'm probably going to add in some Pearl Scarlet, and I probably said that wrong, but just to make it a little peachy, and we'll see where that goes. With this, you need to like mix up a lot of paint first. So this is more of like a yellow orange, but I'll be mixing in a deeper, the Aussie Red Gold, once I get enough paint. Really can use any colors, but I just kind of have an idea in my head that I'm going to play with. And add some water. Okay. And now I'm going to add in just a little bit of this Aussie Red Gold, which is going to deepen it. This is how you make a color. You just play. And I added way too much red, but I'm not hating it. Not hating it. I do need to kind of prop up my thing though. I'm just going to use a cotton swab that I use for my nails and put it, slide it underneath so that the paint is more even. That's actually a really nice orangey color, but I do want to add a little bit more of the Aussie Red Gold to kind of deepen it up a little bit. Let me think. What do I want to do now? Add in a little bit more yellow. I'm trying to get like a depth of color. And I have like a vision in my head, but I don't have like a really clear vision in my head. So I'm going to leave this here at the bottom, and then I'm going to pull in some more and just mix this up at the top. And it's fine if it mixes together, but there's still a pretty decent separation. And you may not be able to see that, but yeah, that's really, really good. So I'm just going to follow the shapes of the petals here, and I'm going to do the ones in the back first. And since you can't really see them all that well, you just kind of have to go by the shape and then use your imagination. So, typical tulip petal. These are going to be fairly small too because I do want a bunch. And then I'm going to add a lot more water and get the paint in there and refine the edges a bit. Kind of looks eggy, huh? I found out this morning that I have to blow out some eggs so that the boy can do arts and crafts on Friday with his class. So, yay. Stopped at the store and got that done. And then, so it's going to be like the main back petal there. I'm going to have another one here, but it's going to be kind of like this. So I'm just going to start that one, and it will be a little bit smaller too. And these will be the back petals in the flower. This could be a huge disaster too, so we'll see. But we're just going to play. All right. And then I think I'm only going to have the 2 flowers, so I'm going to stop with that there. And I'm going to get all of the color out of my brush. And I'm going to get another paper towel to hold. I'm going to dry off my brush. Clean my brush a little bit better. Dry off my brush, and now I'm just going to very lightly scrape away this color. And just kind of go as close to the edges as I can. And this is only the second time I'm really playing with this technique, so I'm trying to get a nice, even, light layer of color. There. This might be a little disorienting for me today, going from one type of flower to another, but I'm just going to I think the key also is to doing as few strokes as possible. So that you have less streaks. But don't really know for sure. Second time. That's why today is just playing. It's the only day really this week that I'm going to be able to stream. Although I might have Might be able to on Friday, but I'm not 100% sure. So I know I've been flaky and I have no schedule, but I'm still trying to figure out like what when things work for me. Life gets in the way. I have other commitments. So when I'm in here, you're here with me. All right, now these have to dry, so we're going to move them to the side, and then we're going to repeat the process, but we're going to do it with turquoise. So this flower here, I don't really want to duplicate this flower. I don't want it to look like this flower, but I did print this out so that I could really get a good handle on the shape of the petals. They're really irregular, and that's really good because they're wavy and curled at the tip. So I just wanted this just for more inspiration than actually duplicating it. So let's see. Now I need turquoise. And I got a beautiful turquoise that I have not really played a lot with. And it is here. Add some water to my palette. And start adding some paint. And this color is so deep and beautiful that I don't really think I'm going to mix anything into it. I think I like it as it is, but we'll see. I do want to get a decent amount of color in here, so yeah, that's really light. It's going to become light, but I want the color to have time to kind of sit on the paper and stain it. I think I'm going to do the thing that you should never ever do. Because today's play day, and why not? Playing is fun. It's a beautiful color, but it's kind of flat. So what I'm going to do is mix in a little phthalo blue, which anytime you touch this color with anything, it really just takes over. But since this is a phthalo green or phthalo turquoise, I think it might be okay. And I might be able to get a richer color. Yeah, look at that. That's much better. All right, so I'm going to just start. This one's going to go really slow because the petals are so big. I'm not making too many flowers on this one either, just two. I've already done something to the paper. So they start out at the bottom here, and then they go really wide. And then they're nice and wavy and natural. Gotta wipe that. Plenty of water. It was a really fun technique and it was a really fun class. And I don't think it's like my style, but I think it's like something that I would like to do or like to have added. as a possibility. So I just want to practice. Can't really know if you like something unless you like try it a lot, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's different in art. Because I can tell you I've only had liver once and I really don't like that. I don't need to try that more than once to figure that out. So that's it's a good shape. Just fine tuning for really no reason, but. And then I think in this image there is, I actually really like this flower. The way that it's to the side, it's reminiscent also of the original, and there goes my paper, the original one that we did. So I wanted to have another side flower here. So I'm going to do one of the petals there. And I'm going to work on the one in the back. This one. Okay, these are more pointy when they're on the side. So I'm just going to quickly I'm going to turn my paper because it's easier for me. And then I guess I'm just going to make more like a tulip shape. So it's pointy. And I didn't give myself enough room. So this one will not be as big and open as that picture. I'm trying to actually going a little bit too perfect here. So I'm just gonna jig along the sides to make it a little rougher. Because petals aren't really perfect in real life. All right, so that one is done. My water's turned into lime from orange and turquoise, and I never would have guessed that's the color it would be. Now I'm going to scrape some of this water off, and it's a really beautiful color, but it's a little bit darker on first scrape, so I'm going to go as light as I can with it. Suck up some of that color before it has a chance to dry. And I'm sure if my instructor was watching this, she'd be like, no, that's not how you do it at all. Maybe, I don't know. But as long as I get somewhat the results I want, does it matter? Probably not. I'm going to leave a little bit more variation up at the top because all of these different curves are where there's a shadow or an overlap. So I don't think it has to be perfectly flat in some of these areas, but where it's very smooth there, you know, there's no wrinkles, there's no curves, there's no anything. So I do want it lighter. And I want it lighter in the base of the petal as well. I'm being very gentle so I don't pill or scratch the paper. Then I'll come back and do the one over here. I just went outside the lines there, but that's okay. Because eventually this will have another layer of paint on top of it. But it was a good reminder to slow down and be careful. But you have to make mistakes to learn. Problem too with this thing, or these types of this technique, this style, is my perfectionist rears its ugly head a lot more than normal. Just saying much. So now we're going to go back to this, and we're going to let this dry. And we're good. Really make sure I clean off my brush well. No color. And then I'm gonna take some clean water on my brush. And we're gonna go with the next 2 petals, or 4 petals. So these are kind of more oval shape. Oh, actually, I should do the ones on the back first. So it will be one coming up here, and then kind of coming around like that. Because I'm going to have another petal on this side here to be the front. We're still working on the back petals. So just going to add some paint. And then the next one will be the same. Give that lots of paint. And then this one is slightly tilted, but it's going to be the same thing. And I'm going to come in because this is more a side view of this petal than anything else, so it's not going to have the exact shape that it should, and you don't want it to. It would look unnatural, I think, but you want it to be recognizable. There. Oh, okay, so this is going to be a little bit broader at the bottom. I'm just trying to keep the shape of the flower. You're probably not supposed to connect like that, but it's a really, I think I need it for, so that I don't lose the shape of what I'm doing. There. rinse, repeat. Many, 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 many times. So the first one I did was this one here. And I'm just going to turn it so that I don't put my hand in there. And I'm going to take off the paint. The other petal underneath, you can kind of see it, but even if you can't, you can kind of guesstimate where it is. And you don't want to go over that line too many times because you still want to see the line of the flower underneath. So I'm kind of guesstimating where it should be and removing that color. And then I'll go on the inside here. Oh, sometimes painting is just so satisfying. And I'm going to go along the line, but not on the line, and remove this paint in the center. And we're going to follow that line on either side of it without hopefully going over it too much. And especially where it is on this side, I'm going to really kind of emphasize the color difference. I guess when you get good at this, you can do it really quick. But again, second time. Oops, I almost put my hand in there. I'm just going to go on the outside of that line. And I actually don't mind going over that line that I made to connect too much. That was more just for me and not really the painting. So blend that as best I can. And I'm going to turn this over because I'm really afraid of putting my hand in that one. And I'm going to just do the same thing. I can see this line clearer on this side. So I'm going to just take this paint off right alongside of it. Kind of really emphasize it by making it very pale on the other side. Now it's still wet in the center and the color is bleeding out. So I'm going to leave that there, take the color out of the center. And again, go really close to that line so that it's a little bit more emphasized. I do need to turn it back. And I'm still really afraid I'm going to put my hand in that one. Can't tell you how many times I've done that. Maybe I'll do it sideways. And all I'm doing is taking, when I clean the brush, I'm taking the color out of it, and then I'm just drying it, taking off the excess water so it doesn't make the color move any more than it needs to. And now I'll be able to come over here on this side of the line and really get a nice clean lighter space around it. I'm just going over this to take away some color and even it out a bit. It was a bit streaky. I'm getting close to that, as close to that outside line that has dried as I can. All right, so you can still see the lines underneath of the original petal, and that's what we're going for. And now I think I have to go pretty quick on this one because it's been sitting a while. So same thing, just taking the color without going over that line, taking the color away. Words, without going over that line. I don't want to blend it or smudge it. I really want to call attention to it with transparent flowers. So I want to keep it there. Yeah, this really dried really quickly. All right, maybe I should go to like one petal at a time. But I don't know, I'm able to pull it up pretty well. This line is way thicker than I would like. But I'm sure it looks fine. Does it look fine? It does look fine. Very nice. Thank you. Hopefully it'll be very nice when it's done. Okay. Oh, this started drying, so I have to go in a little wetter than normal to kind of wake it up. And then I can pull it away, dry off my brush. Soften this line in here too, since it was just me needing the visual and not actually part of the flower. I'm going to just turn it over so I have a better angle to really get close to this line and emphasize it. Okay, so you can still see the line behind there, but you can see that it's darker up here than it is lighter up here. And this one is more consistent. So I was better at staying away from this line up here, and I hit it in some places down here, so it's lighter. I don't think in the grand scheme of things it'll matter, but this is how you learn, right? All right, let this dry. I'm back over here, and I'm just gonna do, this is still a little wet. I'm gonna mute you and dry it. 1 second. Where are you? There you are. Bye. Okay, so by drying it, I warped the paper a little bit, but that is fixable later. And yeah. All right. So now this flower, because I didn't leave room down here with this one being so close, this flower is going to be just completely closed. So I'm going to do the same thing, using this as a bit of a guide for the shape. And it's just going to have all of the flowers open and full going outside. And then this one will be, this is like a back side flower, so this one will be more facing downwards this way, and that'll be on the top there. And that's my watch telling me I should be streaming. So success. I did it. This one is going to have like 4 or 5 petals, so it'll have let's just see. I'm going to do the side petals on this one first, and they're going to be pretty broad, but still kind of at an angle. So I am going to start here, and I'm just going to come up here. So it'll be, yeah, but it will be have flows and curves, which I'll refine as I go along. We'll have the same shape there, and then we'll just do that. So now when I fill it in, I'm just going to go over this line once and then fill in the rest. And because I warped my paper, the paint is going to sit differently. So I'm really going to have to massage it a bit. And I think I learned from the last one that 4 petals is too much. So then I'm going to just work on, that was a dog hair, in case you were wondering. Work on keeping this color kind of consistent and along the edges. Dropping more color in so it stays nice and wet and the color has time to stain. And then here, going by, I'm going to do a petal here. So if the flower is going to be like in this direction pointing down, so the center is here, this is like a half of a side petal. So there can be another one here. And then there can be a big one here and then more here. So this is going to be more side, and I'll just start with this shape, and then I can add more irregularities as I go, because I don't want it to be flat. This flower is really wavy. I'm going to go over this once and then fill in with color. Lots of color, lots of water. And I'm just going to spend the time moving this color around a little bit so it doesn't just puddle in two areas. Although I don't actually mind if it's deeper at the bottom, but I'm staying away from that line. I don't want to touch that line. So, and then I was thinking of having like a really light, like lime green, spring green, grass green color for the stems and the leaves, but those will be transparent as well. So I think it might be a little bit too early, but I'm going to start sucking up these puddles here. And I will move this one around. Watercolor is like such a great medium because you can get such really like light and airy images from it, but it's kind of like owning a cat. Like it will mostly kind of do what you want, but it really has a mind of its own. So, you know, it has a bit of an independent streak, so to speak. And I don't actually think that will come out too bad. So going really close to that line, right alongside it, but not over it, hopefully. It's still so new for me, so you're learning as I learn. Any questions? Any suggestions? Still pulling color, as much color as I can, away from that line. I have hit it a few times, unfortunately, but I think it'll be fine in the end. Okay. Now I'm just going to go back over here and get as light as I can. And now I'm fighting with it somewhat drying as well. So to use a little bit more water than I normally would to pick up the color, kind of reawaken it. And I'm going to leave it darker up here. I just put my finger in there. When am I going to learn? Never. Never. I'm going to change the orientation of this, so hopefully I don't do it again. And it's not the best because then the line is on the other side that I can't see, but we'll make it do because it's better than totally messing up that other one that I just painted. And my brush just needs to be a little bit wetter to kind of reawaken this color so I can take it away. But again, not absolutely everywhere because these are really roughly flowers. And while I'm not going for 100% real, I do want there to be shape and flow. Okay, now I'm going to wet my brush and go into the center, and I'm going to be in a dangerous area. I really want to lighten this one up a little bit more. So I'm going over with just water to kind of reawaken it. And then I'm going to dry off my brush and pull away as much as I can, which doesn't really seem to be as much at all, but okay. Now before this one gets way too dry, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with the center this time, since that was where I had the problem last time, or where I wasn't able to get as much color up as I would have liked. So I'm going to scrape from here first. And I keep touching the line. And I want to preserve it, so I really shouldn't touch it. That's nice. That was nice. And the color from the other side is bleeding over, so now I have to go tackle that now that I have most of the color that I want off of there. I'm probably being a bit too precise too, but you know, I have to be me. And I'm moving it so that the line is right in my viewpoint. I can't really smudge this one. It's still wet, but it's not destroyable. That's a word. It is a word for me. So I'm going to go around this line. Try to preserve as much of it as I can. It's kind of tedious, but again, it's probably my perfectionism here that's like rearing its ugly head and making it so long. Because I can tell you my instructor wasn't spending this much time. Let's just get as much color off as possible. I really like that one. The edges stayed really dark actually. And there is some darkness along the side here where these ripples are, and I really like that. Such a pretty blues. It is totally a word. Yeah, destructible, or whatever word I said. It is a word for me. So I'm just going to go over right along this line to get that color that bled from the other side, so it's a little bit more crisp. And this is what perfectionism looks like in action. It's probably totally fine, right? But here I am, still trying. All right. So now I'm going to put these aside and go back to the orange, and if they're not dry, then I'll just use the heat gun because they're kind of dry enough. And let us see where we are. Oh, actually, oh, he's pretty good. All right, so I have the back flower, the two sides. So now I'm just going to do one more center flower on both of these. And going to be shorter so that you're kind of looking at an angle like, well, like this, so that you can see that these are the back flowers. And I guess I'll have to put 3 more if I really want to be true to this one. So I think I'll do that. I will do the center first on both. That. And pick up some paint. And the paint is starting to dry out a little bit. So I probably will add some water after this one. But I'm going to do the first petal, and the first petal, because it is going to be right here, it is going to basically have this shape, but it's going to have a little bit more. It's going to be very large. And then go over that line, go over that line, and fill in. This is going to be harder to do, actually. So it might actually work out that the paint isn't as thin. What I'm doing here is I only want these lines, and I noticed that there's this other one in the back. So I'm going to try and preserve that one as well. So just quick there, and then fill it in. And I think I'm going to pull this off right away because it's thicker than normal. Or than before, I guess. I don't really have a normal. So now it's going, I'm going to turn this upside down because I'm absolutely going to put my hand in there if I don't. And I'm just going to follow what I hope. I can see one line here. So I'm going to pull the color away along that line. And I went outside there, but that's okay. I'm also going to try and speed up how I'm doing this. And then the line goes this way in the center. There's this line here, which I'm trying to preserve. That line I'm going to hit probably, but as it's on the opposite side of my brush, I can't really see it that well. And there's no way I can really turn the paper so that it's not, if I don't want to put my hand in there. So I will just do the best I can. And once I get more color off, I will go back and try and make it a little bit lighter on either side. So many lines. Okay, I'm going to choose this one. See if I can preserve that. So far, not too bad. I'm putting just a little bit watered down to reawaken because it was so much thicker and it needs a little help. Over here needs a little help too. Oh no, not too bad. Now just scrape away as much moisture as I can without touching the lines. And then I'll come back. Oh no. All right, I'll try and do it this way. Come back over here. There's way too much water on my brush. Scrape that off. And I really want it as light as possible in the center. It's almost like I should switch to a smaller brush, but I then won't be able to pick up as much, so just add a little water, lighten around this area, sharpen it up a little bit. And I'm going to need a new paper towel soon because it's really wet. I'm going to leave that like that. And I'm just going to switch to this one for now, because I really need to get the paint off of this one. And let's do this line first so I have an idea. I can just barely see the two lines. I'm trying to just get as much paint away as quickly as possible without going over them. Oh no, there was a line there too. I forgot all about that one. All right, well, we'll try and preserve it as much as we can of it now. Turn around to see if I can get as close to that line without touching. And we didn't do too bad. Hooray! And now we'll work on this line. And there is a little bit of water in my brush to reactivate the paint, which is really thick right now because it's drying. So one of the lessons of today is that speed is key. So maybe this will help with my perfectionism and knowing that I just have to move quickly. Okay. One last section here. A little bit of water to reactivate it and kind of scrape away as much as I can. I lost a bit of that line underneath at the bottom. But the world is not going to end. And I can see if I can just kind of fake it being there by just having it lighter in that area. And then just need to do this line here, clean this up. All right, that's not too bad. These are a little thicker than I think I would like, but I know why, because the paint was so thick, needs more water, which I'll add next time. So back to the green flower. Please be dry. Dry. Hooray. Well, I'm going to work on the other side of it anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. And I'm just going to do another petal like on this side. And I am going to add just a little bit of water in here for next time so I don't forget. And in here because it probably needs it. Yeah, it was starting to dry up at the top. So, okay. So this I'm going to dry upside down. I'm going to draw, paint. I'm going to paint. Words. Paint upside down. It's going to just have this one line that we have to worry about, but it's going to have the same kind of general shape as the other one on the side. And then come around. And then as much paint as possible on my brush over this line. So hopefully I don't have to touch it anymore. And then fill it in. Yeah, there's a huge difference in the paint texture between this one and the last one. So I really need to keep an eye on that one. And just going to refine the edges a little bit. I want it a little bit more, yeah, like that. Add in some more paint. But because my paper is warped, it's going to sit at the bottom. So I'm going to have to massage it a little bit. And now this one here, this is going to have a petal coming down this way. Not straight, but it's going to be, okay, that's too sharp. Now it's, I think, too big, but we're just gonna go with it. Who's to say that the petal doesn't look like that in real life? Nobody. I'm gonna add more color. Any questions? Anything? Just massaging the color a little bit. And then back to the drawing board. And I am going to pick up this big puddle, take this away first, make my life a little bit easier. And then I'll start taking my color up here. Following that line. And then I'm going to flip it upside down, so don't put my hand in there, and follow this line. There's so much repetitive stuff in this, huh? isn't that coming out much better? And it's easier to remove. The things you learn, if you only do what the instructor tells you to do, then it works fine. Look at that. Oh, I went out there. That's okay. Practice. Look at that. Lovely. Simply lovely. Again, there's like a little bit darker on this edges, and I'm not going to worry about those because I think it's good. This flower has lots of ruffles and ripples. And the only way to know that that's what those are by having a difference in color. So I'm going to take away from over here first so I can spend the time on that line, making it as clear as I can. And then if all of this paint is gone, then this can't run over and bleed into it. As you can see, it's doing from the other side. So hopefully, I'll put my hand in this petal down here, and I can just fine tune. And it's drying really quick. So I'm going to add a little bit of water, wake it up a bit, dry my brush, and take it off. And then where it bled out after I did the first pass of that line, I'm just going to take a slightly damp brush, go over it, but not touch the line. Dry off my brush and take it away. I think you can be slower when you're doing this because there's not as much paint around. It's still a little wet actually on this side, so come back in, pull this away. Like so. And now this one will be really easy because there's no lines whatsoever. I say that, and it's gonna not be. And you have to be careful because there's so much water that you can splash, which I just did. There's a tiny little dot. I don't even know if you can see it, but there's a tiny little dot there now of paint that wasn't there before. Right there. Turn this around so I can go along the edge easier and take this color away. I guess this wouldn't be really painting. I guess it would be more like staining. There's some streaks, so I'm just going to lightly go over it with water. Dry off my brush and lightly take it away. like that. So when we come back to the, oh, I forgot my little mistake here. Oh, actually, there's a bunch of mistakes, so I'm going to leave them. They are now considered artistic expression. So I'm going to do another leaf, a really big, broad leaf in the center, smaller, like the other one. And then I'll do another big, broad leaf here as well. And then I'll do stems and leaves. So back here, what are we doing? That is the front leaf, side, back, side. There is a difference in height on this back leaf, which makes me think I should like maybe add another petal behind, but then the flower gets gargantuan. And I'm really not happy with that right there. So with a very, very lightly damp brush, I am going to just try to reawaken this paint and take it away. It looked really, really fuzzy because the paint bled. All right. So now I think I'm gonna round out the shape and do another petal. I'm really cautious about that side. I'm gonna work on this side first. And I did add more water, so this should be nice. I think I'm just going to do one petal at a time, and it's going to have many crosses, but it's just going to round out the tulip shape. And then quick fill it in. So that is now more indicative or proper like tulip shape. I'm going to just round this out. I really don't want to cross that line, but I'm not going to have a choice. There. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm only going to do 2 petals because I don't want to. Actually, I think I'm going to put this petal out a little further. So it'll be more like this. And it'll come up, go like that, go like that. Not a tulip expert, so looks close enough. Looks like an opened petal. I'm not really sure I like this jig down here, but I'm going to keep it because it's a little bit different and it adds to it. And yeah, so I'm going to go right back in because now we're talking so many layers, and I want to scrape away as much as I can. Get rid of this puddle without touching the lines. And not ruining this center line that I forgot about. I will do refinement of these lines as after I get as much color off of it as I can. Because you can always reawaken to remove, as you've seen. Very nice. What do you think? I'm actually wondering if I should even do any more than that. And then obviously I just answered my own question. I'm just tightening up that line a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And in here, this line. I don't think I can really do much about this just tiny little piece down here. I think if I keep going at it, I'm going to overwork it. So I'm going to leave that there. And then I'm just going to spread the color around a little bit up there. And then I'm going to just take it off. I'm going to start with the outside because that's the least dangerous. I'm going to get this big puddle at the bottom. Oh, another line there. Okay. Any question? Feel free to write or say hello. Don't bite. Well, I do, but not that hard. So it's okay. I think I need a little bit more water for this center, this little triangle here. Don't want to bleed out of it, but I also want to lighten it and not ruin that line. I'm not going to do any more to it. Because I think I'll just blend it out at that point. I'm trying to preserve this line in here from the very first petal, and I'm not doing too bad a job. So you can still see that too. A little fuzzy over here. Center part is a little bit darker than I would like, but I don't really think I'm going to get it much lighter without kind of blending in those other lines. So I'm going to leave that there like that. Let that dry. Back to the turquoise one. Is this dry? Not even a little bit. I guess there's the problem with working fast. So I'm going to mute you for a second and dry it with the heat gun. Okay, and now my paper is even more warped. We're really gonna have to be careful, but I can fix that after this is completely dry. So now I'm going to do a really big, broad petal in here, and then another big, broad petal in here, and then this flower will be done. Um, okay, this is still nice and watery, so it does not need more water. And then this flower, because I am going off of this picture for the petal shape, but it doesn't actually have the like same perspective of flower. Just gonna make it up as I go along. And I'm going to start with the top, and it's going to be the perspective that I'm imagining is that it's a little bit forward, more like towards you, so it's going to be shorter and it'll be slightly open. So you should really be able to see all of these ridges and wonderful little um, ripples. I'm not really sure what they're called in flower world, to be honest. And then this is going to follow this petal here, come up. And I know I just went over that line, but I think that's okay. And then I'm going to hit that line and hit this line and this line and this line, and hopefully never touch them again. Put in a lot of paint. Connect up there. Don't touch the line. Oh, there's a line up here too, so just quick. And then just move that paint around a little bit. I would rather it be darker up at the top where these ripples are. So I might just keep it tilted like that. But then I can't paint this one. So what to do. Maybe that's enough. Maybe I'll just let it be natural. All right, and this petal here is going to be broad and very wavy. Okay, I'm still trying, I know. I'm gonna turn this around actually, so I know what I'm doing. So this one will start over here and have lots of curves. And I can change the shape of those after, but I'm going to put paint over here, paint over here, paint over here, and then fill it in. And I splashed right there. So much water. She said you had to be careful, and I haven't been careful, and that's what happens. But it's actually a really good thing that these are the last petals, because my paint is getting thin. And again, I really wouldn't mind. I'm going to just refine. No, actually, I'm not going to refine that. I'm going to leave that just as it is. But I am going to drop more paint. So this has time. Turn it back around. I'm going to make one last ditch effort carefully to put some paint up there. And then quickly swirl the paint down there. pick it up. And I'm going to see if I can remember where all the lines are. I know there's a line here. And there's a line here. And these lines are the other petals that we've already painted. Get rid of this. Not touching those lines. And there is a line here too. So I'm going to try and preserve that. There's a line up here. And I'm just going to slowly do the same thing. This is the last petal. I want to keep all of these lines of the previous petal. And so this may be slightly more slow going than before. In the center here, it's not a problem. You can just try and suck away as much paint. And in here, I want it to be lighter, so I want to get this paint kind of off first, or now rather than later. I'm going to have to move this around, and I think I'm going to really sure I'm going to put my hand in there. And I'm really trying very, very hard not to put my head in the camera as well. It would be easier if I could just look directly over this, but then you can't see anything. And then that defeats the purpose completely. How can I inspire you when you can't see anything? Oh, did you see the boo-boo I just made right there? Oh, tragic. Just going to pick up some really clean water and try and blend that out. I'm going to take a clean paper towel and press down there. All right, let's get back. We need to scrape away a bunch of this paint. This paper is done being worked as well. It's starting to have a different texture here in the center where there's been layers each time. I might have to switch over. I think this is like a 250 or 270 gram paper, but I might have to do these types of flowers just on a 300 so it has the structure to handle as many layers and as much. You don't usually go back over watercolor like this, so probably need just a thicker bit of paper, just tiny amount to be able to handle this much manual massaging. I don't know, whatever you would call it. But I need to speed up because that's going to dry and I don't want it darker on the bottom. So no more perfectionist, sorry. I'm going to do this one upside down. I'm going to wet this just really lightly and quickly. so they can pull away as much water as I can. No, that didn't make sense. Wait a minute. I re-wet it so I could pull away as much paint as I could. All right, I need to get in here, but there's still some wet paint. I have this part, and my head needs to be lighter. Okay, and up here, I would like this little kind of triangular piece here. I would like this lighter as well. So add some water. Take away a little bit more paint. All right, that's going to be that. Now I'm going to swirl this over because I would rather have the paint at the edges. And while it's there, I'm just going to pick it up and move it away. Okay. Same time, same drill. Last time, there are going to be, let's see, I'm looking for all the lines that I have. And I can see that there's one here. And there's the other side of it. And then, you know, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to make you nauseous by how much I'm turning this around. But it's better for me to have the brush on the right side of what I'm trying to paint or detail than on the left side, so I can get a sharper sharper line. Clean my brush, and then there's a line here, which is really, really light. And I really want to keep that, so I want to make sure that I remember to go back and kind of detail this area. Like that. But first, more paint off. Stay on the edges of this line. Get all of this paint off. And stay along the edges of this line. I'm going to take all of this paint off. I don't want it to be really streaky though, so I really want to keep the kind of dark up in this area. This is just paint that's bleeding over because I have not taken the paint off from this area, which I'm going to do now. So right here, there's a line. There is a line. Remove as much as possible because the more you get off too, the less it will bleed. And we've seen Like, actually, this one is bleeding right here. So any of that wet paint, any moisture whatsoever, will just keep going. And now I need to go back there quick and just follow this side. I'm being really light because I don't want to make the paper pill or anything. I'm not really sure that helped all that much, but we'll see later. All right, back here. Can see the paint bleeding on that side. So get as much off over here. A dry brush, and it's not like completely dry, but it doesn't have a lot of liquid in it. Will pick up the paint easier and better, but it will also keep the paint that you're picking up. So you have to keep cleaning it in between. This one is not going to get much lighter, and I really don't want to push it to be so much lighter because it is 1, 2, 3 layers, but I do want this line to still exist. This one down here, and I'm going to look at this. It's still wet. Come over here and just lighten this one up and follow this line a bit. Oh, and I just went over the line there. Nothing can do about it. So I guess you have to just go fast carefully. All right, I think the inside over here needs a little bit more detailing, finesse. I don't think I did too much over here. To be honest, I can't remember, even though it was just a minute ago. If you knew me, you would not be surprised. All right. That's that, and that's that. I'm gonna let this dry, then we'll do stems and some leaves, and might throw in some lines to give the flower a little bit more movement, feeling. We're gonna let that dry. Go back over here to the tulips, and we have just one more petal on either side, and then leaves and stems here too. So clean the brush. Just for safety, I'm just going to add a little bit more water because it's drying along the edge there. And as we learned, this one gets really thick really quickly. Oh, and we're only going to take from down here because I was messy. So we're to do this, and I'm going to do this petal first. I'm going to attach here, and then the shape is going to be about the same. Just kind of to round out the tulip shape, and then we'll come over. I might not have such a, no, I'm going to, and then it's going to come over here. It's going to follow that petal down there over once, although that line is so dark, probably won't matter. Probably could use a little bit of massaging. But that's that one. And then this one is going to be done awkwardly because I didn't think ahead. So we might do this one upside down. It's going to attach here and come up. I'm really just trying to cement the like kind of proper tulip shape. And I can't see what I'm doing upside down. So now we're just going to have to be really careful and paint like this. I want to kind of stay away from these other lines. I don't think that's going to go well at all, but I am going to try. Make sure there's a lot of paint. You can see that move around. Really what I'm just doing is giving the edges time to dry. So where that paint stops, you can start to see a little line forming there. So that's what I want, because that's what gives you the visual cue that it's something different and not just part of another petal. Thank you for the follow. Follow Nayla. I hope I said that right. If I have not, please correct me. I'm going to take up all of this paint here. And I remember that there's a line in here, so I'm going to try and be very careful. Preserve it as much as I can. And actually, maybe while this is wet, I can make this line, which was really thick, just a bit thinner. I'd be happy with that, actually. The less paint I have on the outside, the less it will bleed in. So I'm trying to get this part done first because it's the quickest, it's the easiest, and it's where the most of the paint is. So now just focus on this section. Let's see how light we can get this and how kind of I'd like this line to be a bit sharper. So I'm not sure if we can get it much sharper than that. We can stop it from bleeding though. And then we'll do, I actually think for this one, I will switch brushes and just take a smaller brush. And just focus in here. And I need a bit of water, but I'm going to take some clean water. I'm just going to very lightly go in between here so I don't lose those lines. Dry off my brush and take as much paint and moisture away. Like that. It's many layers of paint. If you look, there's this petal here, that one, and that one. So it doesn't need to be as light as like the outside petals, but I do still want to be able to see that one. All right, that one is done. I don't think I have the same, I probably do have the same number of lines over here. I don't know who I'm trying to fool. All right, I'm gonna pick up all of this paint first and make my life a little bit easier. Follow this line. How are we doing for time? I don't even know. Oh, almost 2 hours. It'll probably be about like 2.5 hour stream today. Or so. All right. This line here. And this in here needs a little bit of water. Still trying to preserve this original petal line in the back. And I think I'll switch to my smaller brush. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of water in this line like I did with the last one to reawaken it, and then take away as much as I can. There. And now I'm going to flip it over and work on this line here. I don't know, can you see what I'm talking about when I say like it's fuzzy? If you look at how sharp and clear this one is and how kind of fuzzy, thicker this piece is. I don't know if you can actually see that kind of detail or not. I can see it though, so. Okay, and I'm gonna work on this outside one that has bled and needs a little bit of water. And that's way more than a little bit. Okay, and then, oh, this inside one here. Didn't I already do that? I'm losing track. It still looks fuzzy. It probably can't get so clear because it's so old, but it can get a little clearer, sharper, I guess is the word. And then do this side here. that. And then pull it away. Okay. That's what we've got so far for these. And I can see that this looks a little streaky. So I'm just adding a little bit of water and trying to even it out a bit. I'm not going to pull too much away because I actually want a little bit of color. All right, I'm going to call that done. That one is done. So I'll let this dry and then stems and leaves. Back to this one. I don't actually want the stem to bleed in to this. I actually want to keep it separate. So this is still a little damp in here, but it's not going to matter. So I am going to find a little, going to not use my small brush. I'm going to use my larger brush, and this is a size 8 Elf Björka, which I think is like a Norwegian brand. I'm not really sure though. And then I'm going to, what color do I want these? I want these more greeny. I know that doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to mix a light green color. So this will be the darker part of it. Just going to use this little corner here. And then pick up some clean water and add some green gold to it. Kind of lighten that up. So that's a pretty color. And I'm just going to add a little bit more water. And I do actually want the stems to cross too, so we might have to come back to this. But the first one I'm going to do is this one here, because it's from its side. I'm just going to build along this line here and make, I don't actually know what kind of stem this flower or this type of flower would have, but generally they're this shape. So I'm just going to come down from there, and then I am going to curve it. Like that. Just even it out a little bit. Maybe make it a little thicker at the top. I'll let the paint sit a little bit because I do want the stems to be transparent as well and crossover. And then what kind of leaves? These just have really basic leaf shapes. So without getting my hand in the wet paint, which you have no idea how hard that is, I'm just going to make a basic leaf shape. Really basic. I'm going to attach it down here. And then I'm going to make another one coming up here. And attach this one here. And nope, they're going to be transparent, so I'm not going to do anything else. I will make a little one here, but just a little one because it's at the bottom. attach it like that. Okay, yeah. So I am going to pull away some color. I'm probably not going to go as detailed as I did with the leaves. I just want to kind of give the transparent, I just want it to stain, but I don't need to be as perfectionist as I was with the petals. So I'm just going to pull away a little bit. And that was the last leaf I did, so I'm going to go back to the first one and pull from there. Much easier when you don't have to worry so much about lines and other petals. Much quicker too. Like that. And then I'll do this one. Like that. I'm going to switch over to the tulips, and again, I don't want those to bleed in either. So I'll let that dry a bit and then come back and do that and some more leaves. And in the meantime, I'll do this. And I actually want a deeper color. If you look at pictures of tulip, they're really dark. So I'm going to take this turquoise that I have here, and I am going to mix a color so that I can use this paint, but make it darker. And first I'm going to add in a darker green. Yeah, turquoise is really bright, so I'm actually going to add in some undersea green, which is very dark, kind of sagey. It's really, it'll flatten out the color, I think, a lot. I really should just get a lot more in there. That's pretty good. What does that look like though? Yes. See that? Lovely. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I want them transparent, but not too transparent. So pull up some of this color. And tulips, you don't really see much of the bottom of the tulip. I'm just going to make a little thing here because there always will be this. And just going to go down. And then actually should mix up more of this because I'm going to have a lot of leaves as well, and that's not a lot. So let me grab some clean water and really wake up that paint. You're supposed to mix as much paint as you need, a lot of paint, so you don't have to keep doing this. And yeah, clearly I don't listen. You know, you live and you learn. Mix all of this together. Still looks a little bright to me, but actually not too bad. It's not too different. I'll add just a little bit more of this other green. And then that should be enough for everything. I'm probably going to have to mix more of the lighter green too, though. Yeah, you live and you learn. And this is already dry. So, yeah. I'm just going to go back over it. Maybe not exactly everywhere, so that I can pull some away. And then actually there'll be some variation. And tulip leaves are really long and pointy. So what I'm going to do is just down here, kind of give the idea that they're coming up. And it's not really like perfect, and that's okay. And then over here, I'm going to do this. Sorry, I'm going to get you nauseated again. I'm going to do this stem now too. And I'm going to do the same thing, a little blob there. Because I do, again, want some transparency. And if I have this stem, when I make another leaf for this, it will cross nicely. So yeah, that's that. So now I'll just pull away. And again, I'm not going to go crazy with this. I'm just going to just take off the surface paint, really. And hopefully stay in my lines. But if I don't, it's not a big deal. And now I'm going to pull away from this leaf. Turn it around so I can get closer to this line here. That is pretty thick. I don't want it that thick. There, better. And to me, it doesn't matter at all if these are the same colors or not. I think some variation is good. I just don't want streaks. Now I'll pull away from this and then go back to the other one. Let this dry a bit. There. Give that a second. Come back to this one. Definitely will need a little bit more paint. So I'm just going to mix up. What did I put there? Yep. A little bit of sap green. And I would like more sap green than that. There we go. And then some green gold. Sorry, you have to watch my arm while I do this. But my disc is not big enough to have everything in screen. And it's still pretty dark, so I'm gonna get a little bit more of the lighter one. This one I want really bright. The other one I don't want as bright. A little bit of water. I think it's a bit darker than this one was, and I am actually okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So now I'm going to just go from bottom here. Again, I don't want them to bleed in to each other. Just going to follow the leaves because these are pretty form fitting. And then bring it down. And then this one is just kind of not straight, but mostly straight. Make sure there's a lot of paint in there, so I have something to pick up after. And then we'll work on leaves. I have to kind of be, I have to think about like the space and the white space now with this. And I think I'm going to make this a little bit longer so I can make a couple of little leaves down here. And make one on the other side, but not as big. And then with these leaves, they are going to cross, but not really sure where I want them, to be honest. I don't want to take too much away from here, but this is like kind of the most logical place. And then I could, you know what? I think, well, that answered that for me. One is going to go here. And it's going to cross over the stem. Look at that little happy accident. And then I'm going to make another one coming down, pointing downwards from here. Kind of fill in this white space without getting my hand in the paint. She said, hopefully. I also don't want to really go over that line too much. But if it's pointing down, then the leaf will point down. And then this can just come into here. What I can do is just put a couple of like these smaller like leaf buds up there. Should probably put them over there too, but I'm not going to. All right. Thank you for following. Oh boy. Okay. One of the talents that I have is mispronouncing names, and I think I'm going to do that right now. Shivam Badcha? That would be my best guess. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Feel free to correct me. It's a service I provide for free. All right, so I am just taking this. I'm going to leave those alone for now, but I'm just going to pick up all the color that I can up here. And this had already started to dry, so I reawakened it with a little bit of water so I woke it up so I could take it away. Okay. And this particular mix of color is just staining beautifully. We're actually getting the darks and the lights at the same time. I'm pretty happy with it, actually. And that paint dropping over there was just the universe telling me that's where a leaf needed to be, and solving me from agonizing on where to place it for a long time. All right, this one has the stem in it. So I'm going to take this off in 2 pieces so I can preserve those lines, or 3 pieces actually. And I might switch to the smaller brush to get in between there. Definitely need a new paper towel because this one is not taking any water off of my brush. Ugh. And I can't reach it. All right. This is not going to come out clean because this water is green now. So, all right, back here, which is kind of good because it doesn't matter if I use it to reawaken this. I have to move faster. All right. Pulling as much as I can from either sides of this line. To preserve that distinction between the stem and the leaf. Like that. And then I'm going to have to reawaken this one too. So that I can pull away some color. I'm going to try not to go over those lines too much. And while I'm at it, I might as well wet these pieces over here too, so that when I'm ready for them, I can just come and pull away. Really is staining very nicely. This one is not coming out as light, and I'm actually okay with that. It gives a little variation in the colors of paint, but also in my head it's like more, it's the closest thing to you. So I don't know if I actually really want it as light as the rest. I think this will actually do really quite well. Do the center one so I don't lose that line. Like that. Oh, forgot these little doohickeys up here. Definitely should have changed brushes for that, but that's okay. Actually, just gonna go over the whole thing like that. All right, I'm going to give this a second. I'm going to finish the tulips, and then I'm going to come back and just add some really light lines, and then this is going to be done. I'm not really worried about like the shadow and highlights like I usually do. So I just don't think this style needs it. This needs more water. Okay. So now I'm going to do this other, make sure I have as much water as possible. I'm going to do this other leaf. So I'm just going to come up. Actually, I'm going to come alongside there. I think that will work out well. There. Now I'm going to flood it with color. And then I'm going to do a leaf on the other side of this other flower. But I'm going to have this one come out more and like that. I just realized that I forgot to put on one of the studio lights. Is the lighting bad? 2.5 hours later. But I guess you guys would have told me if you couldn't have seen anything before. Can't be that bad. So just adding some color. Already started drying out here at the bottom. And then I'm going to start pulling away from this one. Attempting to not put my hand in the wet leaf. I don't know about you, but that's so satisfying to me. And there's some streaks from the second pull. And a little bit of water. And go over it one more time. Far less streaks. I'm just turning this so that I can get a really good angle at that tip so I don't ruin it. And then I can pull up this way. Keep going, get the edge over there. Okay. Now this one only has one leaf. This one has two. And I think I'm just going to come up with another one. It's going to connect to the second one. But I think it's actually going to be thin because I don't want it can be like it's side view. I'll have to try, I'll use my smaller brush and try and preserve the lines from those other leaves and stem. My smaller brush is also an Alf Birka, but it's a size 4. If you care. Some people care. Some people ask. Actually, no. No one ever asks. But I hear other people telling you that stuff, so maybe you want to know. I don't know. So I'm just pulling as much color as I can. I'm not going to worry too much about this line down here. I'm going to just lighten as much as I can so that you can see there's a differentiate. I can't word. There's a difference. I don't even know what word I couldn't word. So that you can see there are multiple layers. And then this one I am going to spend a little bit more time with. Just lightly and next to it. And then I have to wet the tip here. And there you go. I'm happy with that. All right. Gonna finish off this one. And then I'll come back and I'll add some accents to this as well. So here, I just wanted to add some really light lines in the petals. But actually, what I'm starting to think now is no. I'm trying to overwork something, so I'm going to stop there. So back to lines. I need to mix up because I ruined my turquoise, making it a beautiful green, which isn't a problem, but I wanted a really light like this. Nope, I want it even lighter. I'm going to add so much water. That's what I want. I want it really light because I just did all of that work making sure there was transparency. And while I want to add a little bit of detail, I don't want it to take over from the painting. So I'm just going to add some light lines going up this main petal. And you're not really going to be able to see them so much, I think, on the camera. And then I'm going to come down some where these folds are. I'm just going to make little lines following. I'm just going down each petal. I'm trying not to do too many, and I'm trying to follow the shape of the petal, like which way it would be sitting. I'm gonna need to go darker in the middle there, but in the light, with this light one, I can do all of these other petals just to give it some variation, and nothing like too specific either. Like I envision this petal is like the top of it is here and it's kind of curling. So these stripes would be indicative of that as well. And it's just to give a little bit of texture and not really take away from the transparency of the other ones. I will have to go a little bit darker for this center one because there's so many layers there. But I think that's good. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to start up here and make some lines just to add texture. Just all different places, different curves. This petal is like kind of coming out, I would think, or not. But it's just enough, I think, to add some life to the flatness. Yeah. I'm not even sure. Can you see? See if I can focus this. Can you see the difference between how this is really flat and this one just has a little bit more going on with these accent lines? I think it adds a little bit to it. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I'm just going to pick petals and add lines in the way that I think fits. And it's only this front one that is going to get lines coming up from the bottom. What do you think? Do you think it adds to it? Does it subtract? Was it better before? I'm interested. And then finally this one here. And these will, that's pretty dark. Can't be helped now. These will be going in all different kinds of directions, all different sizes, thickness. Just a tiny bit up from the bottom. Again, just to like give it a little bit of movement. I'm not trying to change the color. That one went a little bit darker than I would have liked, but it's not actually bad either. I was thinking of doing the same thing for the leaves, but I think if I do that, I'm really going to overwork it and I'm going to lose the simplicity of the transparency. So I'm going to call this one completely done. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm going to let it dry, and then I will wet the back and put something heavy on it so that it will flatten out again, and then that will be done. This one I was going to do kind of the same thing, but just more, I think, from the bottom. Most tulips have a different bottom, like different color or different. Some of them have like variated variegation. Some of them just have a completely opposite color. Even in this picture, it's yellow at the bottom and then goes pink as it goes up. It doesn't, I'm not going to variegate it like that. It's far too late, but I am going to add like an accent color. And I think because these are orange, the color that makes sense to me is red. So I'm going to mix a little bit of red. I have some from before. I'm just going to mix it up here. And then I'm going to seriously dilute it. And I don't want the green in it. So I don't normally pull color off of my palette. I'll just use it for something else. But green and orange make brown. And I'm not working with brown right now. So I'm going to pull that away. And I'm going to add a bunch of water because these are not going to be really bright. I don't want to distract from the transparent orange. And it needs to be way lighter than that. Yeah. I'm just going to come up from the bottom randomly. I'm not going to do a lot. Just randomly, and add some very typical tulip shape accent, like that. Doing them in the center, I'm going to just try and pick the outside petals and just do them there. This petal is much larger, so it can have more. I think like that. Just a little bit of variation. Just trying to find some crevices, like where there would be darker pieces. So I wasn't going to do the tops, but I changed my mind mid-go. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. This one is darker. Not a problem. It just will be that way. And then this one can have some here, but it can go in different directions. And then this petal will have some that doesn't take away from the transparency. So you can still see the lines in between. And then I think I'll do just a little bit. I put the tops here. Like that. I think that is good. think I'm going to call that a day. That too is done. I'm going to leave it right there. So today we practiced because I've only done this once before. I just took a class for this on Friday. And this is what we accomplished today. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Lessons that we learned. Thicker paint is not a good not a good thing to use for this. And it gives you a lot of these really hard edges. So if you want those thick hard edges, then let your paint dry a little bit, and then if not, water it down. I can't say that I dislike it too much because it does give it a bit of a color variation on the different petals. So I don't know. Maybe it was a happy accident. This leaf was a happy accident. So, you know. I do like the accent lines in this one. I think it just makes it come to life a little bit more. And if we look back to the reference picture, you can clearly see that there were a lot of striations in each petal. And I wasn't doing this particular flower, but I was using the shape and using it for inspiration. And I think it worked on here to have as many as I did. I don't think I would have liked the same amount over here as I did do here. I think it was easier with this because you could just do any kind of shape. And by looking at it, at least for me, it looks like it's a ruffled petal. It looks like the petal shape is going in and out even without doing the proper shading to show you that. You don't look at it and think it's a banana, you know? It looks like a ruffled petal. Looks organic. So I'm going to call it a day there. I'm going to bid you farewell. I think I'm going to try and come back on Friday, probably in the morning. Right now it's close to 1 o'clock in the afternoon for me. So probably a few hours before now, around 10. And that's it. Thank you for watching. If you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me and I can answer as best I can or point you into a source that'll give you a better understanding. And I hope I'd inspired someone today to be creative. Thanks again, and I'll see you on Friday. Take care. Bye.